time.
It's time.
And now, it's time for Herman and Sharron.
I love you. Thank you for joining us, all you good-looking people. I have today, in fact...
A dear friend.
Yes, I do. I just remember I have my cell phone on, and if somebody calls me, Linda, I'm in serious trouble. There you go. But my special guest, I wanted to show him something on my phone, and I never could get it. So I have to tell him about it.
We're going to have to get you a bigger phone.
I know. This guest is probably the most high-profile guest I will have in 2012.
Wow. Does he know it?
I know it. But you know what makes him so neat? He doesn't know who he is.
I know.
That's what makes it special.
But we do.
Yes.
His name is Pat Williams, actually.
Yes.
Motivational speaker, author of 75 books, senior vice president of the NBA's Orlando Magic, a parent of 19 children, including 14 adopted from 4 nations. He's an Army veteran, former minor league baseball player, host of 3 radio programs,
and the greatest thing of all,
Sunday school.
He teaches Sunday school.
And has completed 58 marathons in the past 16 years. Wow, I'm breathless.
I'm breathless.
Just reading that.
He's right here, physically. Right here.
Wow. You're applauding yourself.
I'm
Good
applauding
for
you guys.
This is my buddy right here.
Hey,
Great to see you
Pat.
again, Sharron.
75 books.
Wonderful to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Wonderful.
You must be writing some while you're sleeping.
Close to it. Close to it. I will wake up in the night and say, I think I've got a book idea here. So you never know where they're going to come from. Herman.
I slid her the phone because I was going to play back. I couldn't get it in, must be the studio. Play back your call to me, because I had called you. I couldn't get through because you were doing a news conference about this diagnosis that you had, and you had to go before the microphones to let them know because of your association with the Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I had called, not thinking about that you were in front of cameras and people were hearing you, and you left a message back to me, and I kept that message. I go, that's mine forever. So, I mean, tell us about what happened and how it led up to that special with cameras and all kinds of people asking you questions.
Well, in January of 11, I had my yearly physical. And at the end of the physical, the doctor said, there's something in your blood work that doesn't look right. We need to have it checked out further. She probably knew a lot more than she let on at that point. Mm-hmm. But I saw my family doctor, and then he steered me to an oncologist in Orlando, Dr. Robert Reynolds, who did some further tests and then brought me back in with my wife and broke the news. He said, you've got an illness. I said, really? What's the illness? He said, multiple myeloma, which I'd never heard of. I said, what is that? He said, it's cancer. Well, boy, that'll get your attention. Wow. Mm-hmm. He had a box of Kleenex there for us. And he said, it's cancer of the bone marrow. It's one of the 3 blood cancers, leukemia, lymphoma, multiple myeloma. I said, well, what do we do? He said, well, it's not curable, but it's treatable. And he said, we're going to start right away. So
did you hear that, not curable?
Not curable.
Did you hear that?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I said, well, what's our mission here? He said, well, we need to get you into remission, and we're going to start immediately. So he said, we got to get you a port in your chest that'll save wear and tear on all your veins in your arms, and which I did right away. And he said,
this guy's the most amazing because it's in his book. You got to get this kind. You got to. Everyone's the best because I've said that for years, but you said right away, let's get started.
Let's get moving. And so they got the port put in and started the chemo treatments immediately. Started me on the oral medication. Did not get into remission. And then in July of last year, they began talking about the next step, the final step, which is called a stem cell transplant. So in November, I went into the Florida hospital for 96 straight hours of chemo, all in preparation. Back in December for 96 more consecutive hours of chemo.
Wow.
Then they harvested my stem cells in January, 4.9 million of them, froze them, more chemo. Then on Feb 9, they reinserted in my body 11 syringes with all of those stem cells of my own into a healthy soil. Healthy stem cells back into healthy soil, basically. That was what was happening. Excuse me. So I got out in about 10 days, made a speech that morning to the Boy Scouts, and have not returned to the hospital. So, and as the days have gone on, I've felt better, stronger. The stem cell transplant has worked.
Do you have an appetite?
Oh, my appetite's good. My energy level is good. I'm keeping a full schedule.
Now, let me tell you, his full schedule would kill healthy, vigorous people. I mean, it's unbelievable, your schedule. And you're doing that again?
Yeah, I'm keeping the only thing I can't do is, I couldn't run with you right now, Herman. The marathons are on the back burner. But I can exercise. I've got an exercise bike at home, and I'm back in the weight room. And so I'm staying in good shape physically. And the doctors have said from the get-go, go live your life. Go live your life. Don't sit at home moping.
So it's in remission as we speak?
Well, we're very close to remission. The last PET scan, where they look at your entire body in one of those tubes, you know, and they said that there are no visible signs of the myeloma, and which is wonderful news. And my blood numbers are improving each month. So
now you're a motivational speaker as well as everything else that you do. Have you related to anybody that went through a similar situation like you, and you had no idea what they felt like, but now you're there?
I am, Herman, and I've got a, you know, we've all been aware of cancer and done what we could, but suddenly I've been thrust into the forefront here. I remember when New Year's Day of 11 came, I said to my wife, Ruth, I think this is going to be an unbelievable year for us. And about a week later, this whole myeloma thing hit me. And my thought was, God, I knew it was going to be an unbelievable year, but this is one I would not have selected, this particular assignment. But I now have become, I feel, a spokesman for cancer. My message to people, particularly men, Herman, is do not neglect your yearly physical.
Could you say that a little louder?
Do not neglect your yearly physical.
I've neglected it for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, you get to see your doctor right away. Modern medicine is miraculous, but it all starts with the yearly physical. And primarily the blood work. They can spot in your blood work anything that's off target. And so many men say, I'm too busy, or I'm afraid of doctors, or I'll take my chances, or, you know. But all of these illnesses can't, in other words, nobody should ever die of colon cancer, because, you know, that's not the most fun little procedure in the world, but they can catch colon cancer early only if you go through the colonostomy. And if you wait too late, you know, it's curtains.
Well, you've become a spokesperson.
Oh, big time. So don't neglect your yearly physical, and do what your doctor tells you. And chances are, you know,
she knows how he's talking to you.
Chances are you're going to be fine. Chances are.
But she's the only one that could get me to do it.
I was fine for 40 years. You know, if you look good, everything's good. Have a good year.
Well, you were a marathon guy.
Yes,
how many marathons?
58. Year 41, the doctor said there's something that's not right here. So they got on it early, and that's awfully important. Awfully important.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's my little sermonette.
This book, believe it or not, has come from, this guy has 700 books in his library on leadership. And you say you've read them.
Yeah, I bought them all, read them all, mined out of them the key points, folded that together, Herman, with my 50 years this summer in professional athletics, 50 consecutive years in pro sports, in leadership positions. So I've folded all that together. The end result, I think, is the most important book I've written
Now,
so
you were
far.
a top athlete, and you have been on that track since...
June of 62. I graduated from Wake Forest in June of 62, signed with the Phillies the next week. And for 50 straight years, I've been in pro baseball or pro basketball.
And you were the visionary for the Magic in Orlando.
I came to Orlando 26 years ago with a dream, with a vision, and that was to create an NBA basketball team from scratch in a city that had never had pro sports, didn't have an arena. The league had not agreed to anything.
They thought Mickey Mouse was it.
We kept selling the future. You've got to envision the future. We kept pitching the league. And so that introduced me to this first topic of the 7 keys to being a leader of excellence.
Yes.
It's called vision. And that Orlando Magic experience really hammered that home in my life. A visionary leader sees before others, sees farther down the road than others, sees in a wider scope than others, sees in technicolor. I mean, it's crystal clear in a visionary leader's mind.
You talk about Ronald Reagan, who was, just my favorite. But he was a visionary.
To grasp and hold a vision, he said, is the very essence of successful leadership. Whether on the Hollywood movie lots where I learned it or in the State House in Sacramento, he talked openly about that. And his real vision, Herman, was a world without communism.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his vision right from the get-go. And he was once asked if he had a strategy. He said, "Well, I do. We win, and they lose."
That's right.
And that happened.
And it happened.
And now we have them in the White
General
House.
Secretary Gorbachev,
Yeah.
he announced 25 years ago this month, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And years later, the wall came down.
Yeah.
And his wife was asked recently, Nancy's 91, no longer doing interviews, but Peter Robinson, former speechwriter for Reagan, did get through and asked somebody the question to ask her, and got an answer back. Said, Ronnie, she said, never thought he did it by himself. It was the people who did it, and he was happy to have helped.
Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And Lincoln was a visionary. Because you talk about the presidents, you talk about all leaders. I mean, the book is just, and again, can you imagine having a library of 700 books, and then you boil it down into what you see as the leadership. And you talk about the first Bush was not a visionary, but he was a leader.
Yes.
So there's a difference. What is that?
Well, he remember when he was running for the presidency in '88, and his handler said to him, "Mr. Bush, you need to be talking to the American public about your vision for this country," and he just flipped it off and called it the vision thing.
Yeah.
And ever since, the vision thing has become part of our vocabulary. So I would not call Mr. Bush, who's now 88 years old, says he'll jump out of a plane at 90. We'll see.
And he probably will.
We'll see. But you would not call him a visionary. George Washington was a visionary, and his vision was a nation independent of Great Britain. Lincoln's vision, one nation, not two. Martin Luther King's vision was a world of equality. Winston Churchill's vision, a world without Nazi Germany. We talked about Reagan.
Was he our last visionary president? Do you think?
I think so. I think so. And the public sensed that. He just had the ability. And that's the second point, Sharon. The second quality, the ability to communicate your vision.
Yes,
You
very
can have
important.
the greatest vision in the world, Herman, but if you can't communicate it well, clearly, articulate it precisely,
Which you did.
with inspiration.
What you did with the Magic.
Well,
you had to go to a person that could pull this off. And you had then to articulate your vision.
Well, and one of the huge things with the Magic was convincing our public, to spend $100 deposit on season tickets. Wow. That was going to be our key selling point to the league, that we were capable. And so I asked them to put down $100 a deposit per ticket to a team that didn't exist, in a city that had never had major league sports.
Impossible.
Where there was no place to play at the moment. And to a league that hadn't committed to anything. So as I look back, I really learned the importance of communicating that vision.
This is in your book, and you just articulated that in your own words. A vision should make the people around you question your sanity.
And there were many in Orlando who did.
I'm telling you, that's what you pulled off.
Orlando in '86, Herman, there was no Skyline downtown. There was no Universal Studios.
Wow.
No Animal Kingdom, no big airport, no massive convention center. But the future was bright,
Yes.
and we were selling. Don't look at us now specifically, but look at Orlando in 10 years, 20 years, and it's just.
Is it ever going to stop building over there?
I don't think so.
My goodness.
Because with the central location, there's no water to stop it all. And
wow.
It's if you travel in certain parts of Orlando where you haven't been for a while, you'll look and say, where did all that come from?
Uh-huh.
I missed it. I haven't been over this way in 3 years.
Yes, that's the truth.
Yeah.
So
that's the truth.
It's a growing dynamic
Yeah, it
city.
sure is.
You point out in your book, Communicate the Vision. Habakkuk 2:2 talks about what a vision, write a vision and make it plain upon a tablet so that a runner can read it. Habakkuk 2:2.
And I think it is.
There again is the vision.
I think it's important to have it written down. Writing crystallizes your thinking, Herman. I've learned that in my, not just my writing career, but the daily life. I write in a journal each night in my Franklin planner, just to summarize the day, what happened today.
Did you write all this that was happening to you in that journal?
And Herman, way back when we started, thinking that it could be a fascinating story if it worked.
Yeah.
I at the end of every day, starting in '86, day by day, here's what happened, here's what we did, and that went on for '86, '87, '88. I did that for 3 years, and then we ended up writing a book. It did happen. I wrote with Larry Guest, the Orlando sports writer. We teamed up and wrote a book called Making Magic, starting from the very first day with all the stories and all the ups and the downs, and the whole story unfolds. It was one of the really fun writing projects. This was way back. The book came out 24 years ago, but it proved that it's important to keep journaling, keep writing.
That was probably your 20th book.
As Christians, Herman, we need to write each day what the Lord is doing in our life, and
I've done that.
Answers to prayer, and it really encourages you. And then when you look back and you see the path the Lord has taken you on, it's very uplifting.
I'm a one-line writer. Seriously. And so I've got journals, and it's only one line. Each day is one line.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
I can condense it into that.
Whatever floats your boat.
That's right. You talk about optimists versus pessimists. And some presidents were optimists, and a Jimmy Carter was a pessimist. What works?
That's all part of this issue of communication, Herman. I think every day as a leader, you get to make a choice. Leader in your home, and by the way, everybody listening today is a leader. Mm-hmm. If you do nothing but lead yourself, you're in the leadership business. But every day you get to make a choice. I'm going to be an optimistic leader, or I'm going to be a pessimistic leader. And I would just argue that optimism trumps pessimism every time.
Oh, yes.
Again, Mr. Reagan said optimism is a choice, and one of the most powerful ones you can make.
Wow.
General Colin Powell said optimism is a force multiplier. It's a military term, but that means it grows, it advances, it keeps increasing, as you build person to person to person. So the importance of being an optimistic leader is so vitally important.
You have 7 chapters in this book. Which one would you pick that one, don't miss it.
Well, the third one, maybe we hit on the third one, Herman. Let's just go with that. It's called people skills. And great leaders have people skills. They have a heart for people. They care about people. They're never too busy for people. You know, they're willing to have their schedule interrupted if
you just described yourself.
Well,
because I know this guy, and I'm telling you, I've put him in situations where he's lived up to that. That is rare.
It's empathy for people. Really, what it is, Herman, is love for people.
Are you born that way?
I don't think so, Sharon.
You
I
don't think so?
I think that you can, if you're really alert and attuned to people. Rich DeVos, whose family owns the Magic, co-founder of Amway. Rich is 86 and still hanging in there nicely, but
transplant, right?
Yeah, he had that years ago,
yes,
and it's
in England.
But here's the bottom line with Rich. Whenever he meets somebody, his first question is, "Tell me about you."
Wow.
Now this is
that's good.
Reportedly the 73rd most wealthy man in America, and yet whenever you encounter him, that's what he'll say to you, "Herman, tell me about you," and he means it. Mm-hmm. And he listens.
And he remembers it.
And he remembers, and he'll follow back up, and he may drop you a note later, and and always signs his note, "Love you, Rich. Love you, Rich." And so every time I'm with him and watching him with people, it just reinforces the importance of great leaders who care about people.
You speak every place, and you sat down next to Jim Walton, and he put out his hand when you sat down and said, "Hi, I'm Jim Walton." Now, there again is another special visionary, especially his dad.
Yeah. I spoke up in Fayetteville, Arkansas a few years ago and finished my speech, came to the back of the room, and this man in a pair of khaki slacks tapped me on the knee. "Nice job, you did a nice job." And he said, "I'm Jim Walton." Well, this bank I spoke for had been founded by the Walton family, not the TV Waltons, but the other one. And then I thought, all those lists and Fortune and Forbes, and each one of those Walton offsprings is worth about $12 billion. And then he said, "Won't you join me for lunch?"
Good.
And I thought, yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah. I'll break bread with a billionaire.
And I thought it would be pheasant under glass. It was turkey on rye and tuna fish. But but really the gist of that story was, I told him that 2 Harvard professors had just done this huge book on the top 100 business leaders of the 20th century. And I said, "Your dad was listed number 1. And Jim said to me, "I did not know that." He said, "I'll have to get that book." And then I said, "What's your dad's greatest strength as a leader? What was his number 1 strength as a leader?" Jim said to me, "I've never been asked that question." Wow. But he said it would have to be his passion. He was so excited about every day. Loved the merchandise, always looking for the latest item and the best price, and stack it high and sell it low. He said he would. Now, I was wearing an Hawaiian shirt that day in Fayetteville. I would never do that with you, Herman, over here.
I have seen you at conferences with a Hawaiian shirt.
I wear my Hawaiian shirt, and the reason I wear them, have you ever seen anybody wearing an Hawaiian shirt having a bad day?
You wouldn't dare.
And so Jim Walton says to me, "Now, Dad would have been fascinated with your shirt. He'd have wanted to know the material and where it came from. He'd turn the sleeve inside out to check on the stitching." And I thought, he was just passionate. And I thought, Sam Walton, Mr. Sam, would have been all caught up in my Hawaiian shirt.
Didn't he also say that he would get in a helicopter and go over land and literally
spot good location.
Okay, we're going to have a Walmart right there.
Yeah.
Because he would scope out the traffic pattern.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a visionary, isn't it?
Yeah, he was a visionary. He was a people-skilled guy. He was a communicator. He once said this: "Communicate as much as you can with your associates," his employees. He said, "The more you communicate, the more they understand. The more they understand, the more they care. Mm-hmm. And once they care," he said, "there is no stopping them." That was Mr. Sam's approach.
Wow, that's great.
With communication. So Herman, vision, communicate your vision, people skills. The fourth side of leadership excellence, character.
Wow.
Character still counts in leadership, although there are many who debate that. They would argue if the polls are good, if the economy is good, you know, the character stuff's not all that important. But I've learned that you can only go as high on the leadership ladder as your character will allow you.
Amen. Amen.
And so this is old-fashioned stuff. Honesty, integrity, taking responsibility, a humble spirit.
In fact, you say
being aware of your influence. At the end of the day, leadership really is influence. That's how you lead.
The seventh side of leadership, a serving heart.
Yeah, we go from...
That's what you have.
Well, competence is number 5, boldness is number 6, and then the 7th side is a serving heart.
Yeah.
These are men and women who understand they're not in that position of leadership to dominate people, to crush them, to browbeat them. They're there to serve others, to serve the company that they represent, serve the people that they're working with. It's not about advancing your own agenda or increasing your own resume. It's all about serving. And when a leader grasps that concept, Sharon, well, then you've got Jesus or Wilberforce or Livingston or Albert Schweitzer or Mandela or Gandhi or Dr. King or Billy Graham, Ronald Reagan, Coach Wooden, you know, these special leaders. But anybody can do the same, Herman. They just have to be aware, and that's what I've really taught in this book. And Bobby Bowden, who models all of these leadership principles.
This guy was amazing. I mean, he reminds me of you because I've read some of his materials. But the Lord was first.
Yeah. And I interviewed so many of his former. That book came out a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Last fall, really. Part of a series. I did Bear Bryant on leadership and then Bobby Bowden on leadership. The next one is Tom Osborne on leadership, the great Nebraska coach.
My goodness.
So I love to explore these great leaders. But what I've learned, Herman, these special leaders, they all have the 7 sides. So here's my summation of what we've been talking about. 7 things one must do to be a leader right and true. Have vision that is strong and clear. Communicate so they can hear. Have people skills based in love and character that's far above. The competence to solve and teach, and boldness that has fearless reach. A serving heart that stands close by to help, assist, and edify. So that's a summation of this book, Leadership
Pat.
Excellence.
I like that.
There's the website on your screen. Use that. Yeah. You will love it. Can you imagine 700 books compiled into one? Amazing feat. Impossible. Pat Williams pulled it off. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Invited to tune in each week to The Good Life, hosted by CTN founder and president Bob and Jane DeAndre. This program features inspirational and informative interviews, anointed music, and special reports. Don't miss The Good Life, Friday nights at 9 p.m. and Monday mornings at 3 a.m. Eastern Time, here on the Christian Television Network.
Watch Life Today, weekdays as James and Betty Robison provide real answers to real problems through compelling guests and miraculous testimonies. Witness God's love through inspiration, hope, and life. Join us in making a real difference in our world by changing countless lives and building stronger families. Don't miss Life Today with James and Betty Robison, weekdays on this station.
Watch now as I take you down a road that is less traveled in the field of medicine.